Okay, council members, we're live on YouTube, ready whenever you are.
Good afternoon, colleagues, and good afternoon, everybody. I am going to call to order the regular council meeting of Tuesday, April the 13th, 2021. And I would ask that we begin with a moment of silent reflection. Thank you, everyone. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Colleagues, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Madam Clerk, please note that there was none recorded. We're going to deal first with our minutes. We have two sets of minutes, the regular council meeting of March the 23rd and the special council meeting of March the 23rd, where we were taking a look at the dashboard for building and planning. Does anybody have any issues? Sherry?
Grabbed the wrong mouse, sorry. I just will move them.
Thank you, Sherry. Do I have a second? Donna, anybody have any comments? Not hearing any. All those in favor? Those are carried. Thank you. We'll then move on to our deputations and or invited persons and or public meetings. And it is my pleasure to introduce Chantal Simmons, who is new to as our building inspector and plans examiner. So pleased to have you aboard. I suspect this is a pretty busy season as folks are getting ramped up on the new bills. So on behalf of all of council, I want to welcome you and provide you with an opportunity perhaps to say a couple of words.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I missed you last time. It slipped my mind just because being a mom, it's a bit busy with picking up the kids after school and making sure I'm on time for everything. So I apologize for that. I put an alarm on this time so that I can make it and introduce myself to all of you. So it's very nice to meet you via Zoom. Hopefully one day we'll be able to meet again in person, but I think things are going well so far at the township office. We're very busy. Coming from Otonabee, I think we get half the permits there that we do here in Selwyn. So this week with Carla being off too, it's been a bit more busy for myself and Paul and Rob too, just trying to catch up with everything, but we're trying to keep up and get back to everybody as much as we can, and I'm enjoying it so far. So I hope that everybody else is letting you know that we're doing that as well.
Thank you very, very much. And I think we can hear the family in the background there. That's wonderful. And
yeah, they're wild. They're around here.
Well, that's a wonderful thing, but it can be challenging to balance home life with work life. So thank you very much, and we appreciate you stopping in and saying hello.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll then move on to our first delegation, Chris Kulwick. Chris, are you on the line there somewhere? I thought I saw you there. There you are, Chris.
I am here.
And you're going to be talking to us about our community safety and well-being plan. You're going to provide us with an update. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Mitchell, members of council, and staff, and for the opportunity to give you an update on the community safety and well-being plan. I know it's coming up. I'll just hold off a second. Yeah, hearing the kids in the background, that harken back to all my kids are at university. The only sound you can hear in my house is our bank account being drawn down. Sorry about that.
All of these things.
Can you see that presentation?
No, just see your drive,
Oh, okay, one moment. Sorry, folks, just give me a sec. It's just loading up. Can you see that now?
perfect, thank you. So I appreciate the opportunity to give an update on the community safety and well-being plan and the work that's being done and what has been done in the past. If I could have next slide, please. Bill 175, the Safe Ontario's Act, made it a requirement of municipalities, all municipalities in Ontario, to adopt a community safety and well-being plan. Two of the major components of that are, creating an advisory committee and doing broad engagement around community safety and well-being. A deadline for the plan was extended from January 1st of this year to July 1st of this year, and I'll have more to say about that further on in my presentation. Next slide, please. So I took this from the guidelines from the Ministry of Solicitor General, where this is the requirements for creating this plan are. And community safety and well-being plan involves taking an integrated approach to service delivery by working across a broad range of sectors, agencies, and organizations, and including those local government, police, health, mental health, education, social services, community and custodial services for children, and certainly many more are signing on. But they are to proactively develop and implement evidence-based strategies and programs to address local priorities, looking at risk factors, vulnerable groups, protective factors related to crime, complex social issues on a sustainable basis. So broadly, that covers a lot of things. It's not community development based. When there is a bit of a focus on crime, but as I go on, you'll see that the social issues and the community level work certainly plays a big factor in the development of this plan. Next slide, please. The province has broken it down and has used this graphic, and it's been adopted by many municipalities to kind of give a graphical representation of the 4 levels of intervention around emergency response, risk intervention, prevention, and social development. So while one of the key areas around emergency response, given where this plan lies with the Ministry of Solicitor General and in the Police Act, certainly emergency response is the last measure that we're looking for. And when we look at the other 3 levels is where all those, the integrated approach of working with other organizations and the public to intervene at different levels. So you can think of different things like, the paramedics, the EMS have, launched a campaign, which I've supported where I can around, calling 211 instead of 911 is something where you look at, the prevention and risk intervention level of getting people the right services instead of calling EMS and having them respond to something that more of a social worker or a different program in the community could address. So we'll be looking at all levels, all 4 of these levels of response when developing strategies in the community. Next slide, please. So just to highlight a few things, the community must include, local risk factors that have been identified based on community consultation and multiple sources of data. We're pulling together our advisory committee, and certainly the data that various organizations and sectors have collected and used to develop their plans and strategies will be integrated into this plan. And that'll be part of the basis of how we do our community consultation to develop the evidence-based programs and strategies to address those priority risk factors. And then certainly developing mechanisms for measurable outcomes and to report on performance measures moving forward. Next slide, please. I included this slide just to give examples, this one and the next one, around some other jurisdictions that have developed these plans already. And at the highest level, these are the types of priorities. So when you look at, look through these, you'll see, around certainly housing and homelessness, poverty, opioid use, those sort of things, addressing youth issues and mental health issues are at that higher level of priorities. And then each of these areas break down into further detailed actions that have been agreed upon amongst multiple groups. And you can use, I guess, the housing and homelessness sector as a good example of already doing these sorts of things and bringing in, the shelters, housing providers, mental health, youth services. And we're not about to go out and reconsult on, say, housing work. We have a city county 10-year housing and homelessness plan. So we'll be leaning on that plan in many respects as we move forward with the development of our plan, so that we're not trying to reinvent the wheel and that we're aligning that plan and things that police services have done as well, both city police and OPP in a similar way. So if you go to the next slide, please. You could see like the regions, the larger areas have these very high levels, and it was interesting to see where Prince Edward County was far more, relatable, say, to Peterborough County, while they still had, the mental health issues and, opioid issues and drug-related things. They got into more specific rural issues related to emergency response in rural areas, looking at issues faced by seniors, whether it be around mobility or fraud and isolation issues, looking at the social connections. And certainly myself having strong ties to the age-friendly plan can certainly relate to those priorities both in the city and the county. So I just included these as examples to give you a framework for where our plan is heading. Next slide, please. It was back in December, City Council approved the hiring of a diversity, equity, inclusion officer for 2 years, and they will be developing 2 plans. One of them will be the community safety and well-being plan for the city and the county, which will be their top priority. We're in the last stages of recruitment of that. Hopefully have an announcement soon on a successful candidate, but also developing a diversity, equity, inclusion plan for the city and the county. That'll come later after we'll be doing some work at, simultaneously with both plans, but certainly the priority will be around the community safety and well-being plan at the outset. Next slide, please. I'll also mention that this program and that position will be within the community development program, which is my portfolio, which is a city county 50-50 cost share, just as a reminder. Back in February of last year, the CAO for Asphodel Norwood pulled together a variety of players that, to try to get this process started, city, county, all the townships, public health, city police, OPP, EMS, got together in Norwood to discuss a strategy to move this plan forward, given at the time the deadline was January 1st of this year. And we knew we were really going to struggle to meet that deadline at that time. And it was after this meeting when I took on responsibility for developing this plan or getting it moved forward, and had things moving. We were going to, in working with the CAO in Asphodel Norwood, we were working on hiring a consultant to do some of the data research and develop a consultation plan. And then obviously the pandemic hit and it went on the back burner for everyone. So it was late last year that we started the ball rolling on this again. And where we sit right now is pulling together the advisory committee, hiring the person, and hiring the staff person to do the work. It's our intention to submit an interim plan on the deadline of July 1st, where it's impossible for us to meet that deadline, with the expectation that we'll have a full plan submitted to the province January 1st, 2022. Letters from both the city and the county have gone from both councils to the Ministry of Solicitor General, voicing concerns and requests for extensions to the deadline. And I would say I am on a provincial roundtable of municipalities working on community safety and well-being, and many other municipalities have done the same. There aren't many who met the January 1st deadline, and there are very few that are going to meet the July 1st deadline. For us, nothing has really changed. We knew the January 1st deadline was likely not going to happen once wasn't going to happen once the pandemic hit, and we're, agencies and those that were trying to get on the advisory committee are all struggling, particularly public health and emergency services, around dealing with, the challenges they're facing with the pandemic and rollout of the vaccine and everything else. So next slide, please. I just thought I'd add this one because the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer will be making a DEI action plan as well. I've just highlighted, a few of the priorities that they'll be working on as part of the development of that plan. I didn't want to spend too much time on this. I just wanted to provide this one slide of information. Happy to answer any questions about it, but didn't want to take up more time of council. Next slide, please. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Colleagues, Sherry?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Chris. It looks like there's quite a bit of work to do. Do you have at this point the representative for our township, the advisory committee? Have they been named?
Yes, Lisa Newton is joining us on the advisory committee. I actually spoke with her this morning, and I look forward to calling that first advisory committee and seeing her virtually.
Okay, and I just want to make a comment. I don't know if it's politically correct or not, but I'm going to make it anyway. I hope there's more inclusiveness between the city with the townships and the county than there has been most recently with the homeless and housing plan that has been talked about in the media. I don't want to see us steamrolled with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. I see Anita and then Donna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Chris, really good presentation. Thank you so much. I sort of piggyback on what Sherry was talking about there too as well. Obviously in the city that there are huge issues there like homelessness, substance abuse. You take a drive downtown Peterborough and there's some pretty scary sights. Whereas, in the townships at Selwyn, our big thing would be, affordable housing, seniors, that sort of thing. I don't know if it'll be touching on employment opportunities or whether because obviously well-being is closely tied to having a good quality of life. So in a lot of ways, the township does provide a good quality of life, but we're losing our young people to a larger center. So I'm kind of hoping that your plan will somehow integrate a little bit of housing outside the city in our township.
Certainly, no, that's an excellent point. And I don't know how yet that the plan will be formatted, but certainly the rural priorities will be highlighted, those that are separate from the urban versus the rural areas. And I think it'll be more a matter of formatting, not a matter of glossing over rural considerations. That will certainly not be the intention, or will not be the outcome of the plan. Whether or not there are different priorities in Selwyn than there are in Havelock, Belmont, Methuen, again, I think that'll just be a formatting issue, whether it's chapters in the plan to highlight the different needs in different areas. Certainly there'll be some commonalities between all municipalities, but the intention will be to use whatever consultation methods that Selwyn currently uses to reach out to the residents when the time is right. That will be done, but at the initial stages, we will be asking each township, each member of the advisory committee, so whether it's CMHA or a housing organization or youth, Peterborough Youth Services or PARN or whoever it may be, looking at their strategies that they have as well and putting them in some cohesive manner into that interim report. So we know what the township, you folks know what many of your priorities are, and you've just listed a number of them. And I know townships in the county share many of them, as I've been to each council many times over the years. There's certainly a lot of commonalities, so it's a matter of reflecting that appropriately in the plan.
Thanks, Chris. Donna?
Yes, through you to Chris. Thanks so much, Chris, for spearheading this. It's a huge, complex job, and I wish you luck.
I will need it. Thank you. I'm not joking. This is going to be very challenging. And I will say, we're in a pretty hard spot right now. It would have been nice in hindsight to have started this in 2018 or 2019, but that's not where we're at. Our plan will be the best one that we can possibly make with the time that we have. But it will be an ongoing plan, so there will be revisions and updates to it. We'll have to decide as a community how often we're going to do those updates. And I will also mention that the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer does have it within their job description to work on the implementation of this. So that's part of the resourcing of it as well.
Thank you, Chris. I have a couple of quick questions. First of all, just to echo what Deputy Mayor Sinis said and Councillor Locke about the importance of making sure that we have a plan that both reflects city and county, but also in its implementation demonstrates that. But and you may have said this and I missed it, my apologies. So we're going to, in essence, send an interim plan for the 1st of July to meet the deadline. When is that going to get basically updated and a more robust plan be ready?
The hope is that it will be submitted January 1st, 2022.
Okay, so we're going to come in with a plan on the 1st of July and then 6 months later. In terms of public consultation, because you speak to that, you could just suggest what kind of public consultation you think you're going to be able to do before July 1st. And when you have an opportunity perhaps to be more robust, what that kind of public consultation will look like.
It's not my intention to do any public consultation before the interim report. The intention will be to use existing plans, existing priorities that municipalities have right now that they know of to build into that plan. Will I do research on the data and reflect the demographic information, crime information, well-being information that we have will be built into that interim report. And we'll certainly have many more priorities in the interim report. And then out of that, it'll be up to the advisory committee and staff to decide on what we want to consult the community on. And like I said, I don't think, and I'm, the advisory committee can change my mind on this. I'm not the one making the decision on this, but around the 10-year housing and homelessness plan, there's been a lot of work done on that. And if there's something that needs to be changed in that, then we'll identify it, but someone will have to come up with some proof as to why we aren't using the direction in that, or the strategies that the OPP have developed and are currently working on, that why those need to change. I think given the time frame we have, we'll have to be selective in what we consult the community on. If we had started 2 years ago, it would have been a far more extensive consultation process, and it might have been more of a 2-stage process. But I don't see us having the time, because each township council is also going to have to approve that interim report. So we'll have to get it to each of the councils sometime in June. So the time frame to build that interim report is quickly running out.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I'll look for a motion to receive from Anita, seconded by Donna. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Chris, and we really, really appreciate your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Have a good meeting.
Thanks. We'll then move on to our next presentation, this time from Gail Courthouse from the CFDC. Gail, are you online? I see your I see your name there, so I suspect you are. There
Yes.
you are.
So I'm just going to share my screen, which is down here. And we'll go to okay. It's a pleasure to be able to give you a recap on the work that we've been able to do through your funds for the business reopening program that we worked on starting, I guess, in June of last year. And we've got some great success that the residents and the businesses are talking about, because they have been able to use the support that you were able to bring forward and we were able to deliver for you. So I want to kind of just give a vague overall of the success that we've had with the businesses, the distribution of the funds, what sectors we reached, and most important, how the funds were spent, and then what were the results overall in the financial side of things. So just a recap of everything. Project came to a complete end on March 31st, and we were active to make sure that every dollar was spent by the end of the month. So we have a zero balance bank account and a lot of happy clients out there as a result of it. So if we look at here, these are new quotes from phase 2, which really we hit Central Smith, the Village Inn, and Griffins. Griffins were able to add sanitation stations, and it was able to help them in what they did. The Village Inn, they got the safety travel stamp from the tourism organization, and Central Smith was able to work by helping to reduce some costs that they had unexpected as a result of having to purchase multiple PPE devices. So I would have to say we, as Community Futures, have given out a lot of money, and over the past years, there have always been much larger sums. And that being said, we got a higher level of gratification from giving out a smaller amount. And if I was to rethink this on how I would do it, I think the program we put together with your staff to deliver $2,500 was just the right amount. Those who needed more, we were able to catch them on phase 2, but that amount of money provided a lot of gratification to 112 businesses. So good on you. Thank you. So how do we distribute the funds? Smith basically got 33% of it Lakefield got a larger amount at 35. Ennismore has less businesses, so we got a little bit less. And Bridge North got 15%. So in phase one, we delivered $206,000. In phase two, we delivered $43,000 for a total of $250,000. So who actually got the money? We hit the retail sectors, and the retail sectors were account for about 32 storefronts. We hit business sectors from food, which are the restaurants, the catering, the fitness locations, resorts, which represent the tourism side. Of course, the service industry, they've been really hit bad at all the times of the lockdown. So the hairstylists, professionals, and massage therapists, and then of course supported some community services as well through the Legion, the Chamber, the Farmers Market, and some churches. How were the funds used? All of the locations use them in multiple ways to service their clients, and most important, to help attract businesses coming back. So through plexiglass dividers, which we see in all the stores today, safety adaptation, signage on what to do and how to go and where the arrows meet. And in some cases, you even hear a conversation in the store that you're going up the wrong arrow. So it's everything in many ways of helping us move cautiously through the situation. So in the end, what did we do? So we serviced 109 businesses in the first phase, which happened really quick. We had the money out the door within the first day. And your staff worked really well with us on weekly calls, keeping us up to date, keeping them up to date on what we were doing. So cheers to your staff on how they were able to work with us through this, letting us know who needed a little bit of money here and there. And it was really a team effort. So I thank your staff, and of course, Michelle Cadwell Chalmers from my staff, who was dedicated to this job, which was really, really great. In phase two, we had 24 businesses that we put additional funding out through. In total, we did 133 claims. Obviously, that doesn't add up to 112, which what we did was kind of some organizations got a second top up in phase two as we had additional funds. 56% of the businesses used the max that they could get. 44% of them had claims that were less than $2,500. So with that, I think we did a really good job at meeting a community need, but you did a really good job at identifying a community need. And we really thank you for using us as a delivery agent in helping you do that. There was wins for Community Futures as well in delivering this program for you. One thing it really helped was it got greater recognition for our programs that we deliver. And as a result of people being more aware of what Community Futures did, we were able to provide more financial assistance through our Rural Relief and Recovery Fund, which is funded by the federal government. And the additional, we had a program called ASAP, where in addition to needing money, businesses needed help. So we provided resources through lawyers and accountants and helping them get client attraction, maintaining clients, HR, how to write new policies to adapt to changes in working environments and remote locations. So working with your team and with your clients and your businesses really helped build the businesses of Community Futures and helping us from a rural perspective, making sure we were able to meet some of our mandates as well. So we really, really thank you for the opportunity to work together, and through with your vision and our support, be it business or municipalities, we're here to help in any way that we can. And if you're ever looking to find us, this is where we can be located. So thank you for the opportunity. We really appreciate it. And I'm going to turn it over to the chair and take some questions if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gail, and thank you for delivering this program on behalf of the community. We very, very much appreciate it. You run a great program with the CFDC. It makes a real impact on small business in our community. And it was demonstrated in this project, but it's demonstrated in many, many other things that you do. So thank you very much, and to you and your staff and to your board as well. Donna, you had a question or a comment?
Just a comment through you, Andy. You pretty much stole my thunder, but I just wanted to thank Gail and her organization for being so efficient, so prompt with the funds. And I talked to many, many business owners, and they were so appreciative of that as well, that it wasn't a very complex application and it was easily accessed. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Jerry?
Thank you. Through you to Gail. Gail, as I think you know, as a small business owner, it's been tough out there. And on behalf of all the business owners here in Selwyn, thank you. That program rolled out seamlessly. It was great. The cost of PPE was being, what's the word I'm looking for? Jammed at you, I guess would be the big thing. They were jerking the prices pretty good. In fact, I bought 1,400 pairs of gloves today, and the cost was less than half of what it was back when I was buying gloves a year ago from now. So all the help that both the township and that you delivered on was greatly appreciated by the businesses. And again, on behalf of all small business guys, we do appreciate the support, not only from our own council and the township, but you know, Community Futures and everybody else who has helped us out. There's a lot of people hurting out there. They're still hurting. There's a lot of people who will not recover, but you know what? There's a good chunk of them that's good, that they're going to make it through, but it's going to take the support of everybody. So thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Sure.
Is it me? Thank you. Through you.
Go ahead.
I want to echo what has already been said by my colleagues. I think it was a great team effort all around. Council was involved, our staff was involved, your staff and your organization. And as has been said, it's been really appreciated. I would like to have this particular presentation that you have here shared with our Economic Development and Business Committee, because I think it's something that we should beat the drum about. We don't do that enough as organizations, and it was a program that was very well done. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Anita?
Ditto to what everybody else said. I'm not going to repeat it all, but I concur 100%.
Thank you very much, Anita. So, Gail, I think it's pretty clear. Council is really pleased with the delivery, as is our business community, as Jerry pointed out. So thank you very much. And I will look for a motion to receive the presentation. Anita and Jerry, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Gail. Have a great evening.
Can I just add one thing before I go?
Absolutely.
We will be celebrating and telling all about the good work of this program as part of our AGM on June 24th. And while I'm promoting our AGM, I certainly have sent an invitation to every single one of the business leaders on the council and all the councils in the township to make sure we have a fantastic speaker, which is Doug Griffith, who's written the book 13 Ways to Kill Your Community. And the intent is that all the business leaders will have the same kind of messaging, because we're all trying to do the same thing. So hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thanks, Gail, and thanks for the invitation. Okay, thank you, colleagues. We will now move on to our public meeting. We have a public meeting regarding a zoning bylaw amendment, and I'm going to ask Jeanette to announce the meeting and then to put forward the issue at hand. So, Jeanette, I think I saw you there.
Yep, I am here. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
So the Township of Selwyn is holding a public meeting to consider applications to amend the zoning bylaw for the Township of Selwyn in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. The prescribed notice of public meeting was provided by prepaid first-class mail to all residents that are within a 120-meter radius of the properties, as well as by way of a sign being posted on the property. The notice was provided by email and fax to the prescribed ministries and agencies, and the notice was available on the township's website. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make a written submission to the Township of Selwyn before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the council of the township to the local planning appeal tribunal. Nor can a person or public body be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the LPAT unless in the opinion of the tribunal there are reasonable grounds to do so. So this application, we have received a complete application for lands that are described as being part of Lot 26, Concession 13 in the Smith Ward, and are known as 1961 14th line. The subject lands are presently designated prime agricultural, and they are zoned agricultural. The amendment is a condition of a consent to sever application B520, which was imposed by the township. And the first figure in the report does illustrate the proposed severance, and the severance includes a 0.44 acre parcel or 0.18 hectare parcel that will be severed from the property situated at 1961 14th line, and that severed parcel will be merged with the property at 1984 13th line. So the purpose of the amendment is to rezone that severed portion from agricultural to rural residential in order for there to be contiguous zoning across the merged parcels, and to recognize the proposed residential use of that severed parcel, which is being merged to the residential lot. So I have completed a review of the application, and it is my professional planning opinion that the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan. It maintains the spirit and intent of the county and township official plans, and the township zoning bylaw. So I have recommended that bylaw 2021-032, which is a bylaw to rezone certain lands situated in part of Lot 26, Concession 13 in the Smith Ward from agricultural to rural residential, be brought forward to the bylaw section of the agenda for council's consideration. We have received comments. There were no additional comments outside the ones received from the MTO, Parks Canada, and the Autonomy Conservation, which were appended to this report. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Jeanette. I will first go to our audience. I understand in terms of people in favor that the proponent, Marla Sutherland, has registered, and just wondering if you have any comments. You're on mute, Marla, if you're trying to say something. Okay, I'm gonna assume that the proponent is in favor. I understand, Madam Clerk, that nobody else has registered either in favor or opposed.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, Marla, you're now unmuted, so if you want to go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no comments at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll now go to council. Sherry?
Move the recommendation.
Okay, Anita? Second? Okay, any other comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you very much. And that is approved. Okay, we will then go on to question period. Madam Clerk, has anybody registered a question?
Yes, we do have one question that has been sent in advance of the meeting. It is from Arthur Torella. The question is, when will the township issue Kathy and Arthur Torella May 24th, 2012 building permit application that all permit fees and legal requirements have been met and is now over 3,200 days past the Building Code Act and the Ontario Building Code legal timeframe requirements?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will answer that on behalf of council. I have been advised by the CBO that he has communicated with you on numerous occasions and indicated that a building permit cannot be issued until all legal requirements are met. He has advised that submission is deficient and as a result, the permit cannot be issued. Thank you. There not being any other questions, we will move on to staff reports. And the first staff report is our 2021 work plans first quarter update. Janice, did you want to make some general comments before I open it up to questions?
Thank you. So as council will recall, these work plans were approved back in December. And as per normal practice, we bring them to you once every quarter to provide an update on where we're at and to get any questions that council may have. So the department managers are here and are prepared to answer your questions. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Janice. And colleagues, as been the practice in the past, what I'm going to do is go through each one and ask if anybody has any questions on it. And we'll start with the Chief Administrative Officer. And I see that Anita has a question.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is with regards to the link. Have we heard back yet from the province as to whether or not they'll extend the project to 2025, or are we still waiting for an answer?
We are still waiting on an answer.
Thank you, Anita. And Donna?
Yes, this is just a comment, and I wanted to compliment Anna Courier for her organization of getting key players together for a photo op and a short bus ride on March the 31st. It was a well-organized event, and I think everybody enjoyed getting together, seeing the bus and having a short ride.
Thank you, Donna. Any other questions on the CAO? No. Okay. Building and Planning Department. Do we have any questions coming out of Building and Planning? I don't see any, so we will then move. Oh, sorry. Okay, there are questions. Sherry, go ahead.
Thank you, through you. First of all, the backyard hen bylaw, it shows here implementation in 2022. I think the last conversation that we had as a council was we weren't sure if we wanted to go forward with it. So I don't want there to be, it seems like there's a bit of mixed messaging.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I guess maybe I misunderstood. I anticipated, I certainly heard that we didn't want to implement it this year. And the thought was that I thought perhaps we would debate whether or not we wanted to move forward with it next year. But if it's council's wish that we take it off the list, I obviously wouldn't take any issue with that.
Okay, so Donna, do you want to comment on the same thing? You're still muted, Donna.
I have commented on the same thing in the past, and I indicated that I was going to change my allegiance and was not going to support the bylaw because of some experiences I had last year early in COVID with urban hens.
So
If I
perhaps
can,
who?
that it's Janice, Andy.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to clarify. Really, I think all we would need to do is put the word potential implementation in front of that, because indeed that was the discussion around the time that the work plans came forward. We had it on the work plan earlier in 2021, and council directed us to put the consideration of it any further off until Q4, with the understanding that if anything was to move forward, it would be for an implementation date in 2022, if that was the decision, and it was if the consideration was postponed to that time. So it would all be subject to whether or not council wants to move forward with the implementation.
So let me just make sure I understand correctly on behalf of my colleagues. Any implementation, if it were to occur, would be in 2022, and I think what colleagues are saying is they would like it to come back to council so that council can decide whether it wants to go ahead at all. Okay?
Exactly. That's why it's moved to Q4 for that consideration.
Okay, so sometime between September and December of 2021, we'll return to this issue and decide what we want to do.
Exactly.
Okay, is everybody comfortable with that? Yeah, I'm seeing nods. Okay, so that got rid of that one. And so we'll go to Anita has one, and then I'll return to Donna.
Thank you. This is just with regards to the department statistics. Total construction value is down 27% from last year, and then down 36% on total revenues. Question for Rob, do you see that? I think there's a report somewhere in tonight's council that it looks like we're going to have quite a good year, but do you foresee that it is going to be as good a year as last year?
Yeah, so if the end of the third quarter and certainly the beginning of this one is any indication, yeah, we will have a good year this year. Certainly consistent with last year's is what I'm anticipating. We had quite a number of permits issued, actually more than last year. They were just of lesser value at the beginning of the year, which these are just, I think, natural fluctuations.
Okay, thank you, Donna.
Yes, through you. This is on page 5, the last item. And the question would be to Jeanette. It's mentioning ongoing and in progress for the SETI project. Jeanette, I was of the understanding that we were finished with that, but that probably isn't correct then, is it?
Donna, that would be in reference to sort of the project that came out of that, and that was working with the different planning departments and with First Nations to sort of develop a protocol as it relates to Planning Act applications and when First Nations would be circulated and consulted with.
Okay, thank you.
Sherry?
Thank you. Through you. Rob, I just wanted to know what the update is for the implementation of the planning application software. Where do we stand with that now?
Yeah, so we're anticipating that we'll have the beta version available to users by the end of April.
Excellent, thank you. And I have one other.
Sherry? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sherry, and then we'll go to Jerry.
No, go ahead, Jerry.
Okay, Jerry, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you to Rob. At this point, Rob, are we still doing the cost of construction versus the square foot? I don't think we've switched over to that, have we?
Yep, no, through you, Mr. Chair, that is something that will take place later on in this year. Paul Monks is kind of spearheading that particular project, and he's been busy researching and gathering a lot of information from comparable municipalities so that we can have a really good debate when it comes time.
So at this point then, with the lumber, just lumber alone being 2.5 times the electrician's costs, everything like that, the cost to build is now going through the roof. Is there any consideration taken into that when people are getting their permits for this being an adjusted and inflated cost, if you will? Or is it just, if it's $7,000 greater than it was a month ago, that's what you're paying?
Well, so we rely on the applicant to provide, a reasonable estimate of construction value, right? And you're right in that they're probably experiencing additional costs related to, just supply, right? There's not a whole lot of supply, and so the cost is going up. I haven't seen a huge deviation though from what we would typically see, say, for a single detached dwelling. So I think people are moderating, those costs kind of themselves, right? For the most part, they're coming to us with an opinion of construction value that's reasonable, right?
Yeah. Sherry, you had another question?
Yes, I do, and I have a comment. the Trans-Severn Waterway Realty Focus Group, it says that is the TSW's placed it on hold. Is there still issues with regards to getting permits through the TSW, Jeanette?
My understanding is that it's still taking quite some time, and that's just coming from the industry. I haven't heard from the staff member that sort of had been spearheading that project in some time.
So there's no way that we can kind of push them to get together again to try and fix the issue?
I'm sure we could, you know, I guess we could reach out to them to see if they're planning on, I guess, restarting the group up again. My understanding is that they were, and that was a little bit prior to COVID. So I'm guessing that COVID has sort of created some challenges for them.
Okay, but COVID could go on for quite some time, and everyone else is moving forward. So I don't know if that can be used as a reason. I know it's not you, it's TSW, but it seems like a cop-out to me. Anyway, is there a way that we can do something through our council to request it, or can you make a phone call, Jeanette?
Yeah, I can reach out to TSW and just see, like just informally, we could start with that just to see what their plans are, and then let you kind of report back to you guys. And if you're not satisfied with the answer, then maybe you can do something a little more formal.
It sounds like a plan. And I just wanted to mention the key performance indicators, the statistics that we're getting now. I think it's great that we can show that we are responding in a timely fashion, and it's something that we can show to any naysayers out there. So I'm glad to see these statistics. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? I don't see any. I just want to echo Sherry. It's great to see the KPI coming out on building permits, and that, you know, that's one of the reasons we have a cloud permit, so that we can get that kind of data. So that's great. Thank you. Not seeing anything else on building and planning. We'll go to corporate and community services clerk's department. We have Donna, then Anita.
Yes, through you. The last portion on page 1, capital project support. And the second item is Ennismore CIP detailed design. Not started. I just wanted to make sure with Angela that will get started this year. I'd like to see some public realm money spent in Ennismore. So I just want to wave my flag again for Ennismore.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, yes, Donna, it's definitely on my to-do list. We do need to pull together a little bit of a request for quotation and get some prices from some local firms to help us prepare this design. I know it's near and dear, and it's definitely, when we look at what's been done in Young's Point, there's some great opportunities next for Ennismore. So it would be nice to move on with our next community.
Okay, thank you.
Anita.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I had made a notation here with regards to the Lakefield campground review of options. I see that we might be having a meeting early in May to look at the initial results. I just want to encourage anybody out there that's maybe watching to go to the township website or their Facebook page and click on the link for the Survey Monkey. The more people we can get filling out this survey, the better, so that we have a good information for the initial report.
Thank you, Anita. Anything else? I had just one comment. I just was wondering, the co-op marketing plan that we funded for this year, I was just wondering if there's any specific initiatives we're going to see over the next little while. I don't know who can take that.
Yeah, I can certainly address that. We'll work again with Structure Harrop on that multimedia marketing campaign, and we hope to get it initiated in May.
Great, thank you. Any other things? Not seeing any. We will move on to financial services. Anybody have any questions on financial services? Doesn't appear so. Okay, we will move on to the fire department. Anybody got anything on the fire department? It doesn't seem that we have any. I had a question though, Gord. Replacement of boats 2 and boat 5. I thought we had just a couple of council meetings ago had approved the tender on the purchase of one of these boats. Is these 2 in addition to that, or is that one of the ones that we bought?
No, Andy, yeah, they're just approved. So actually, I believe I told you, council, that they wouldn't be here till 2022, but I was mistaken, but they should be here. I'm hoping the end of September. So
excellent.
Yeah, I was happy. I got Ted wrong, so.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Chief. Okay, then we'll move on to human resources. Any questions on the human resources? Okay, don't think I see any. And then we will go on to the libraries. Oh, is that on library, Anita, or on human resources? Library, okay. Anita for library.
Just looking at your library activity from January to March 2021. In spite of the closures, I'm just looking at all the numbers of participants for the various programs and the virtual activities. And I just wanted to congratulate library staff and the board for coming up with so many great creative and innovative ideas to get people, through the pandemic or, through some of the really difficult times. So thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Any other comments on library? Not seeing any. Okay. Parks and Rec. Any questions from Parks and Rec? Sherry.
Thank you, through you. This is with regards to the Peterborough Cycling Network. They're doing a cycling master plan, and a lot of their routes come very close to our township. And I'm wondering if we are going to comment on it and look for connectivity. I know it's not on the work plan, but it's the only time I can ask the question. So.
Do you have a reply?
Sorry, I just am noticing it doesn't appear that Mike is on the call. He was going to join from home, so I'm wondering if he's had some technical difficulties. So we'll pass that question on, Sherry, and ask him to get back to you, okay?
Okay, any other questions on Parks and Rec? Gary, did you? No? Okay, I had a question, and it might, it would be Lane perhaps that would be able to answer it. Do we have any idea at this point the amount that we lost on rentals when we had to go into the first stay-at-home order, and then I think the ice was out by the second stay-at-home order? Do we have a handle on the kind of revenue hit that we've taken on that, Lane?
Yes, for you, Mr. Chair. In the 2020 year, I could find some data for you on that. Save and except the arenas, because of the situation of how the arenas currently operate in a deficit situation, we didn't bring in full revenue there to offset those revenues. But in other areas, in parks and in library and things like that, we actually did bring in revenue. So I could look that up. I'll have that information for you before the meeting's over.
Well, that's pretty quick. Thank you, Lane. Okay, let's move on to Public Works. Does anybody have any questions about the Public Works issue? So, and I don't believe that we do. Okay, I think that's it. So I think we just need a motion to receive the work plans. Donna, seconded by Anita. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, now just give me a second to reshuffle my papers here. Okay, we will now go on to our next report, which is the first quarter financial update. Lane, did you have anything you wanted to speak to before I open the questions?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is the first quarter, so definitely early days in terms of reporting on financials. We kept the format the same as that approved by budget or by the council approved in the budget format. And I just wanted to acknowledge our Deputy Treasurer, Michelle, and the work that she put into that to allow that to happen. As council recall, we have a new financial services software, and it is very powerful, and we'll be able to do some interesting things in terms of program reports by functional area and by council programs and things like that. But that was very important for this year to keep some continuity and to report on the financials in the same way that we approved the budget. But having said that, in so doing that, there was a lot of effort that went into producing this in a short period of time after the budget was approved. So just wanted to thank Michelle for the effort that she put in there, and hopefully the comments in the report were meaningful to council. And if there's any other questions, I could answer those.
Thank you very much, Lane. Does anybody have any specific questions for Lane? Yes, Anita.
Not on the on his report specifically, but I just had some questions of curiosity of the financial statements. So, for instance, in Department 20, project number 7 Young's Point was 2,442.7% over budget. Is that because there was things carried from last year, or like how do we get that that amount? I think Department 20. Does that make sense?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, that's likely reflective of some year-end entries that have not yet been cleared in 2021. So, for instance, we would have accrued an amount of, say, for a holdback on that account, but we've not yet reversed those accruals in 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in Department 8, microfit installations were at 87.04% of current budget, and we're only like 25% into the year. Is that once again carried forward, or is it because you've purchased more, whatever, being at 87.04%?
That one I might have to look into in a little bit more detail. I think that's probably insurance. Okay. We have to pay annual insurance, and we break that down between microfit and fit. And so because we paid our annual insurance, it's very likely that that's what that amount is. That's really the only expenditure in those two areas that would be that large.
Okay, because yeah, it's the fit installations at 62.2%, and the microfit is at 87.04. But if it's an insurance thing ahead of upfront, but
yeah, the fit service charges on a monthly basis are higher than the microfit service charges on a monthly basis, so that would skew the percentage for sure.
Okay. And then I have one more question under Department 40. I gotta find it here. For the marina at 73.25%, 73.25% on Department 40.
And I think that is going to be insurance again, because the marina does have a healthy insurance premium, and also the accrual to do with the work that we did last year on the docks.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Other comments, colleagues? I had Sherry, yes?
Recommendation.
Okay, did somebody want to second that? Okay, Donna, just before we vote on it, I had a couple of questions. Department 7, under the CIP Improvement Grants Program, I see we've only in the first quarter drawn $3,600 on our total budget. So that would be only about 2%, 3% of our grants. Is there a reason why we haven't been doing any grants in the first quarter?
I might get Angie to weigh in on that, because I do know that this is going to be a very active program in 2021. I would anticipate that it's probably just the timing of the year and some of the work that couldn't get completed yet. I know that Alicia is working with Angie on approvals of applications, and we're already looking at the subscription rate being very high for 2021. But unfortunately, I don't know the exact answer, but Angela might be able to add some comment to that.
Yeah, yes, that is correct. We have a lot of interest in the program, so there will be no worries that we will spend probably every dollar in that account. So a lot of things have been approved, but the work hasn't been completed, and final submission to collect the money hasn't occurred.
Okay, and that was my question. So we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, colleagues. Lane, you're still on for the AMO gas tax one-time funding for 2021.
You, Mr. Chair, this definitely welcome news in terms of an injection of funding from the federal government. And it seems funny to call it one-time funding when council will recall maybe 2 years ago that we received a very similar amount of one-time funding. So it's definitely a welcome bit of capital funding that's come into the municipality. I included an excerpt from the AMO communication. It outlined some legislation that needs to be passed, and unfortunately I never had a chance to check to see if that actually did get approved, but we haven't received any funds yet for sure. Since its inception, the AMO gas tax program has always been earmarked for roads in our township, and that's primarily because we have significant road needs and we don't have a reliable funding source other than the AMO gas tax. So what I'm suggesting in this report for council's consideration is that because we have a very large project with Water Street, multi-year program, and we know that the funding for that is going to be a challenge to complete in a timely manner, that this new infusion of funding would be earmarked for that project.
Okay, so the suggestion is we use the $520,000 towards the Water Street build, which I believe you had indicated in a previous report that there was a pretty healthy cost attached to that. So, any questions, colleagues? No, there seems to be a consensus to move in that direction. Can I have a mover? Anita, seconded by somebody, please. Jerry, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you, Lane, and you are still up. This time on the Woodland Acres water and sewer budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, definitely the budget for Woodland Acres we would call a typical annual budget, and that's for the subdivision just on the outskirts of the city and including now Summer Lane subdivision. 3 points that maybe would not be so typical. This year, we're not proposing an increase in the user fee for that special area rate, and partly to recognize the times that we're in, but probably more importantly, the capital charge will be completed at the end of this year. So that's the second point. So because of the fact that the capital charge will be completed at the end of this year, we'll have a fairly good asset management plan in place for that area. We should be able to get the correct level of reserve in place as part of next year's budget. And so at that point in time, we'll be able to take a look at that. There should be some relief for the ratepayers in that area with respect to the capital charge, but we will need to ensure that we have sufficient funds set aside for replacement. So that's the second point. The other is that we do have increased consumption there for water and obviously the disposal of wastewater. Adam has spent quite a bit of time looking at that, working with PUS, and they actually have a data logger on our meter there. 2 points that we can kind of earmark at this point. Summer Lane subdivision came on stream. So the Summer Lane subdivision is now fully occupied, and all of the townhouse units are fully occupied as well. And of course, council's heard of the activity in Summer Lane subdivision. We definitely have a lot of folks in that subdivision, and there's a lot of folks that were in the catchment area generally last year because of COVID. So as the more folks work from home, then we would expect to see there be more consumption of water as well. So based on those 3 additional points, that's just provided for council information. It's what we would maybe call a typical annual budget, although we do have that one big capital charge with respect to the generator replacement, which council has already approved.
Thank you, Lane. Questions to Lane on the Woodland Acres water and sewer? I don't see any. Jerry, you going to move it? Or do you
Yeah,
have
I'll move it.
questions?
I'll move it.
Okay, and seconded by Sherry. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, colleagues. And we will now move on to the rooming, the regulations regarding rooming and boarding houses. And this is Jeanette.
Thank you. So as you recall, back in February, we provided a report where we identified a number of options that we had in order to regulate rooming and boarding houses. And council directed us to move forward with option 3. So this report outlines what is proposed in option 3. So we're looking at defining what a boarding, lodging, or rooming house is, as well as creating a bylaw with a number of regulations, which would include the maximum number of bedrooms, there'll be no cooking facilities, parking spaces, minimum amenity space, as well as ensuring that the requirements of the building code and fire code have been met. I've also provided other considerations that we did not include, and the rationale as to why we did not include those in the draft zoning bylaw. So I am recommending that you receive this report for information, and that staff be directed to finalize the draft zoning bylaw amendment to regulate rooming boarding houses, considering whatever input that you give us tonight. And we would be commencing with a public consultation period, which would include at least one public open house, which would most likely be virtual, social media campaign, as well as a statutory public hearing. So I am here to answer any questions or receive any input that you have.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for all the work that's gone into this. I'll go first to Don.
Yes, thank you, through you to Jeanette. Have to find my spot here. I think I've lost it. Oh, when it says no cooking facilities in any room, what if somebody had a microwave or a toaster oven? As from what I know about college and university students, they often have those types of things in their rooms, and would that be prohibited?
That's correct. The intent is any of those types of I guess facilities, cooking facilities would be in the kitchen.
Okay, and I have another question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
It says with a maximum number of 6 bedrooms. Now, would we have any problem if they had 2 people sharing a bedroom? That would really increase the number of people in the house and could affect the washroom. So would we mean that 1 person per bedroom?
That's not the intent of the regulation. The regulation is just the 6 bedrooms. The intent of this bylaw is that this will be on municipal services, not on properties that have septic. Just to clarify that.
So you mean the intent is not that there would be more than 1 person in a bedroom?
No, we're not regulating that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there could be as many as 12 people living in the house.
I guess potentially, yes, there could be.
And that may cause problems with parking and so on, and then we'd be alerted to that then and have to deal with it?
Yes, and we have regulations in place in order to deal with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Jerry?
Thank you. Hang on, I just caught myself about to say something completely wrong. Through you to Rob and Jeanette, I guess. Down in the basement, as I understand the building code, there has to be a window for in every bedroom for an escape route. Is that still true?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, there has to be a window in every bedroom, but there has to be at least one that's large enough to serve as an escape, right? If there's no direct access, yeah.
So that's my question. Typically in those subdivisions, they're 2 feet wide by 1 feet high. I don't know about you, Robert, but I'm not sure I'm making her.
Yeah. So that would be part of the review, right? So if the building wasn't designed to accommodate bedrooms in the basement, then you're right. There probably wasn't a window large enough to accommodate the egress criteria, right? So they either have to renovate to create that, or not to put bedrooms in the basement.
All right, thank you. And I think you'd get through there, Rob.
Okay, I had a couple questions I was going to put forward. And just to make that point, these are regulations that are in addition to, not in replace of items that would be in the building code. So anything that the building code would require, this doesn't relieve anybody of doing any of that. This is some additional items, and then you would have to adhere to the building code. That's correct, right?
Yes.
Okay. The issue of 6 rooms, would that be subject to if somebody in the future sought a minor variance and said, "Could I have 7, please?"
Absolutely. Anybody can apply for relief from any component of the zoning bylaws. So yes, somebody could apply for that.
Okay, and then we'd have to make a decision based on the advice of the planner and what we want to do. Could you just explain to me, because I was a little bit confused, the parking regulations that are associated with this as you now see them?
So you would be required to have your 2 spaces, which is part of what's required for a residential dwelling. Then you would be required to have one, if it's a rooming house, you would have 1 space in additional to that. And then for every time you have 3 rooms, I'm saying this wrong, you would be required to have an additional space.
Or any part thereof of 3 rooms?
Yeah, so if you had 5 rooms, it would be 2 additional spaces.
So a 3-room, or let's make it easier, a 2-room boarding house would have to have the 2 normal parking spots plus 1.
Yes.
Okay, and a 6-room boarding house would have to have 4 parking spots.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any thing, a pre-existing situation? So if somebody already was operating with, let's say, 8 rooms, and they were operating in Woodland Acres, just as an example, and we passed this bylaw, does that become a legal non-conforming use?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, that would only apply if what's happening today is legal, right? So if somebody has an 8-bedroom house today and it's legal to have that 8-bedroom house, then we can't apply these rules retroactively, right? But if somebody has an 8-bedroom house and the initial permit was for a 5-bedroom house, then it wasn't legal, and so consequently they wouldn't have the benefit of the legal non-conforming status.
Okay, very good. That makes sense. And the last comment I would make, could we make sure that particularly in the Woodland Acres area, and I guess to to in Lakefield as well, because those are the two areas where we've got services, and this only applies if you're on municipal services, that we really emphasize the public meeting and the consultation, because I want to make sure that this doesn't come as a surprise to folks that we're considering this. And I know we can only do so much, but let's try to do as much as we can so that if there is anybody that has an opinion about this, that we get an opportunity to hear from them.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. And so the next step would be the drafting of an actual amendment, and then that would be the way you would do the public meeting.
Yeah, so the amendment, we have drafted zoning bylaw amendment was attached to this report, so it is there. And then if there's no other comments, we'll move forward with that for the public to comment on.
Okay, great. Okay, I can't remember. I'm sorry. Did we have a motion to? No, somebody want to make it? Anita and Jerry, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, colleagues, thank you very much, Jeanette. And the next item is, if I get this right, is still Jeanette, and now we're on the new official plan project update.
Yeah, so I just wanted to provide council with a bit of an update in relation to where we're at with this project. And so I provided a bit of the history of, we've been at this for some time. I've also provided you with a link in case you want to take a look at all the minutes of the technical advisory committee, because there's a few. And I also provided links related to the different reports that that Brian Weir has been putting together for county council, and has been sort of filtered through that through the county council report to the local councils. So I provided a bit of an update in relation to the growth needs analysis, or the growth assessment and the land needs assessment, or the growth analysis and land needs assessment, sorry. There's a project that is underway right now at the county level, and that project, as we know, is going to feed into a lot of the policies and the mapping. Then I went back to the council meeting that we had in April of 2019, where council did identify a number of key areas that they were interested in having providing input. And I sort of broke those down and provided you a bit of a summary of the provincial policy, as well as some of the things that we're attempting to do through the policy writing, as well as the mapping. And again, I want to preface everything with the fact that some of these things may change as a result of the growth analysis and the land needs assessment that's occurring right now. So I am open to any questions that you may have or suggestions. Oh, sorry. And then I just wanted to just step back to the recommendation. So of course, to receive this report, but I also think it's important that you hear from county staff. So I am suggesting that council direct staff to request county staff to attend council meetings at key times to provide updates and to seek council's feedback related to the growth analysis and land needs assessment project, as well as with the official plan project. And then I'm open to any questions.
Okay, who's going to begin? Sherry.
Thank you, through you. Jeanette, the official plan update as it relates to severances and the ag mapping, you mentioned that you're going to be sending refinements to the province for review and approval to change from prime agricultural. You mentioned that on page 6 of your report. When is that going to be done?
That I'm not sure. That would be a question to county staff. I know that county staff is working with Asphodel Norwood and has sent some stuff through. It's quite a process. There's an application for it's an application kind of process for each and every parcel of land that you want to be removed from the prime ag mapping. And so they're working with OMAFRA on Ashfordale Norwood. And my understanding is once that piece is done, Selwyn's will be next. We've been through all the mapping with the county. Selwyn's mapping has been completed with staff and county staff. So we will be the next ones for that to occur.
Okay, thank you. And I think it would be good if council could see those maps. The other thing is, has the minimum size, you mentioned a bunch of criteria where it will change, and it sounds good, but you don't mention the minimum size with regards to retained land. And right now in Selwyn, the minimum size is 20 hectares for retained land. That should really drop considerably. So is that still a condition?
So my recollection is of the policies or the draft policies is yes, we're still maintaining a retained lot size of about 20 hectares or 50 acres. The intent of that is to ensure that we don't have fragmentation of agricultural lands.
Right. So the last official plan update was 2008. And at that point in time, we had different council and different expectations. And once the official plan is in place, the overlay for prime ag land will be put down. And that's going to pretty much take away most of the severances that we would be allowed, because a lot of the properties that are zoned rural will now be prime ag, correct?
Yeah, there is definitely a lot more land that will be picked up in the prime ag mapping. Absolutely.
So I would think that in order to give us a chance, because if there's one thing that I get a lot of phone calls about is it's from people wanting a severance. And this is in Smith and Ennismore for the most part. So maybe we should be looking at an OP amendment prior to the OP being finalized. Just a comment from you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Jeanette, there's nothing that would preclude that, is there?
Well, except that it probably doesn't meet with provincial policy, but you can initiate an official plan amendment for sure.
What wouldn't adhere to provincial
Well,
policy?
our policies are in line with provincial direction, so I'm just not sure if we'd be able to support official plan amendment.
Okay, I think there might be some confusion here, and just before I go to my colleagues, I'm going to try to clarify it. And let me just use one example. So you're making a suggestion, if I read the report correctly, to allow in a rural area 2 severances as opposed to 1, correct?
That is what is in the draft policies right now. That's correct. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to make an assumption that that particular change, just taking that in isolation, is consistent with provincial policy, because you're suggesting that it go into the official plan.
Well, yes, and I remember I said I'd just like to clarify that some of these policies may end up changing as a result of what the land needs assessment identifies, which should be allocated for growth towards the rural areas.
So what you're saying is, if our allocation of growth is, well, I'm going to use a ridiculous number, 0, then by definition, your official plan should then say you shouldn't allow for any severances.
Sure.
Is that correct?
Sure. I mean,
So
that doesn't make sense. You know, we have policies in place that may allow for a lot of growth to occur in an area that growth may not, it may not make sense for that area, for growth to occur in that area. So that's what I mean with growth allocations. And we don't know what that's going to be until the county project is completed.
So just to clarify then, what you're saying is that you would never change the local rules around severance without updating your growth analysis.
Well, I think you'd have to have some sort of basis to justify the change. So with undergoing the growth analysis now, that's going to provide that justification. You'd have to do some sort of work to justify a change in those policies.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Donna, you got a question?
Yes, this is on the same issue, and I don't have 100% confirmation that this is occurring, but I believe it is. Other municipalities are allowing severances from farm property, and I'm not sure why we can't do it, because they're under the same provincial policy statement as us. I don't understand why we can't proceed with that before the official plan comes into effect.
Jeanette?
So I do know that other jurisdictions also allow severances in rural areas, but severances are not permitted in prime ag areas. That doesn't matter which municipality you're in. So I'm not sure what information that Donna's receiving, or if that she's just confusing it with rural areas. The severances occur in rural areas, and they occur throughout the different townships within the county. Some municipalities allow more than we do per I think we allow one, some allow two. And there's also when I talked about that, the parcel, the date that a parcel is considered a parcel. Our date is right now 1978. Some municipalities are a little bit different than ours. Some are they're in the 80s and 90s, and some municipalities use rotating. So like every 25 years, you become eligible for a severance on that property. There's different ways that municipalities, so that's where the differences are between our township and some of the other ones. But as it relates to severancing in prime ag lands, it's not permitted unless it's what they call a farm surplus residence, which means we have a consolidation of two farm lots. We actually just have one going on right now within the township. And when the consolidation occurred, there's two houses on that farm, so the one can be severed off.
Donna? No? Okay, so I think council, and I want to put words in people's mouths, so if I say it wrong, council, please pipe up. I think council has a desire to ensure that we change the rules around severance so that additional lot creation can occur in rural areas. We all realize that the vast majority of growth is going to happen in the serviced areas of our township. Having said that, there's a desire to do that. Our current rules are more restrictive than the other townships. I happen to have the chart in front of me. So, we're the only one that only at present allows one. Everybody else allows two, with the exception of Havelock, Belmont, and Methuen, who allows three. And so I was glad to see in your recommendation that we will move to two. There's also a wide array of ideas in hamlet settlement areas and in rural settlement areas and settlement areas, and you're also making recommendation to move that up to 4, which I'm supportive of, and I think probably council is supportive of. The point that I think that the deputy mayor was making is this particular official plan goes back to my first time on council. And as I was wrapping up that term back in 2014, we were talking about the update of the official plan back then. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we got going on it in 2017. We're now 2021, and goodness knows how many different things have changed, and not ascribing any blame to anybody other than to say an official plan that was adopted, I think, Kerry, in 2008, which are generally 5-year plans, if I understand correctly. I think they can go up to 10, but I think the intent was 5. We're 8 years past the time. And so, and the other thing that I recall is when I was first on council, that we were talking about the severance issue back then. And so there's a little bit of desire amongst council, I believe, to get on with it. And to simply wait until the official plan changes is we've been waiting and waiting and waiting, but there's a policy that we want to get changed. And so the fundamental question is, can we not do it an official plan amendment, given how long it appears to be taking to get the official plan changed? And if I understand you correctly, Jeanette, you're saying, no, that's not possible. And I really want to find a way that we could proceed. If I had confidence that the official plan was going to change in the next 6 months, you come back and say, look, Andy, this is going to be done in about 6 months. But the reality is we've been going on for 8 years, and an official plan amendment tool is available to us immediately, whereas the official plan may not be. And I don't know if any of that muttering made any sense. But Jeanette, did you, am I missing something here?
So I just started saying that this conformity exercise with the new growth plan does need to be completed by July 1st, 2022. So we do have a drop dead date for the official plan. I do believe that the next council meeting of county council, you are going to be receiving a bit of a timeline. My understanding is that we're hoping to have this wrapped up and sent to the province for adoption in the first quarter of next year. Just give you a bit of a timeline. You can initiate official plan amendment at any point in time that you would like as council. I just think that you would have to justify, well, you do have to justify it, and it may be an uphill battle to justify the amendment.
How much of our the growth allocation that was done the last time have we either used or not used?
I would not know that. I know that most of it would have been allocated to our service areas. That's something we would have to look up.
Because that would be where you would go absent a new analysis, right?
It would definitely be a good starting point for sure.
Okay, my own perspective, I want to chew through this issue in my mind for a couple weeks and figure out where I want to go, because this is not directed at you. It's just directed in general. We're going back with a desire to have done something that goes back, I can at least say 11 years, because that's when I first came on council. And I find that we're still not there. And that's just frustrating. That's just frustrating, because there is, amongst this council anyways, there's a consensus on the direction we want to go in, and we're just having difficulty getting there. But let's just think about how we can deal with this and move on to some other, because you provided a real wealth of information in your report, and it's I don't want it to just be on this one issue, because you spent a lot of time and energy, and really good time and energy, on an up-to-date. So I'm just going to move off of severance for now, or for this discussion, and ask people if there's anything other than severance they want to pull out and discuss in the report. I know I have a couple of items, but before I get into it, I just want to ask if anybody else does. Okay, let me, Jeanette, is changing the boundaries of our rural settlement areas a realistic thing that can get done in this rewrite of the official plan?
So again, that's really going to depend on what information comes out of the project that's underway right now. I definitely, the county staff and I have taken a look at some different areas that we could potentially expand the rural settlement areas that would not compromise or be going into the identified prime ag lands. But again, that's something that's going to come in. That information is going to flow out of the project that's underway right now.
Okay. So let's just go to that project for a second, because the reality is when you're measuring growth, that we've gone through what's the right word for it? Some really fundamental changes, I believe, over the last little while. So we've had the completion of the 407, which is going to affect and has affected this township. But I think more recently, we've seen a change in migration patterns brought about by COVID. So people are choosing to move out of urban Ontario and into rural Ontario. And so we're experiencing that growth. People have made a decision, and I suspect, well, right now, in some respects, it's not through choice. They have to work from home. But I'm going to guess that corporations and individuals are going to say, you know what, this makes sense in some cases, and they're going to continue. They're going to continue to do that. So that analysis that's going to take place, I would be really surprised if it doesn't indicate that we need to have the opportunity to provide housing for growth that's occurring in our township. And if I understand it correctly, when that allocation is made, there's really three different ways, general ways that we will be able to meet that. One is through our serviced areas, where, if I understand the official plan and the planning documents, where most of the growth would be directed. But the two other ways that we, I think, as a council, want to make sure that we have as an instrument is, one, is that we can accommodate some of that growth allocation through expanded rural settlement areas. So the Ennismore hamlet would be an example, and through the ability for some limited but additional lot severances in Smith and Ennismore. Is that a reasonable approach to this, Janet?
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it with the hierarchy. So it starts with our settlement areas, and then filters down into the rural settlement areas with a smaller allocation into what would be considered rural lands. So with limited residential growth in rural lands. So yeah, no, absolutely.
So once the consultants, because I think they're hired now, do the growth analysis, will council have it? Does council have an opportunity to then say, okay, given the growth that's being assigned to Selwyn, this is how we would like to see it allocated?
That's the intent. They're going to make recommendations. The consultants will make recommendations, but ultimately the decisions will be made by county and local councils.
Okay, and I'm thinking, and I like your suggestion of getting county to give an update to council. I think the first of those should probably happen sooner rather than later, so that we can get ourselves, because they did do it once, in fairness, but I think, my goodness, we're probably going back, Jeanette, help my memory, we're back 2 years since they were last
April 10th, 2019.
Well, yeah, 2 years and 3 days, just happen to have that figure. I think it might be time to have them come back and continue this discussion. And in just closing of my comments, and I just want to make a point, and I've said this at County Council, and that's to the staff, to Brian and the team, and I suspect that you've had input to this, and perhaps Rob, to those papers that have been prepared on various aspects of the planning. They've been really, really helpful to me in trying to understand some of the issues that are being faced. So I just want to express my appreciation to the time and energy that has been put into trying to give us, as counselors, a feel for some of the issues that we're trying to deal with. Having said all that, we need a motion to receive this, and a motion to invite county to come back. And I don't think we need a motion at this time, but it probably would be my intent to ask to bring back the issue of severance at some point in the not too distant future. So, okay, so we need a motion to receive and a motion to invite county. Anita, seconded by Donna. All those in favor? Carried. And colleagues, it's 6:49. We've been at this almost 2 hours. Can we take a 5-minute break? We'll be back at 6:55 and continue the balance of the meeting. Thank you. Colleagues, we'll start in just a second, just waiting for Donna to come back. And there she is. Okay, colleagues, we'll continue on. Our next item is the open air burning bylaw. And Andrew, you've been patiently waiting since the start of the meeting. So you want to make some opening comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and councillors, for the opportunity to speak on behalf of this proposed amendments to the open air burning bylaw. We know that we're regulated under the Fire Protection and Prevention Act, and that's how we base this open air burning bylaw. These are proposed amendments to the bylaw are made to help regulate open air burning to the safest degree possible, while also trying to find a balance for residents of this township to enjoy the properties that they have outdoors. So we have been working hard as a fire department, along with our captains, senior captains, or chief fire officials, not only here, but I've been proposing this bylaw and thoughts on this bylaw to members of the chapter of fire prevention officers within the municipality and across Ontario as well. There are some significant changes, as I'm sure you've noticed, in regards to the bylaw, but many of the changes that are taking place here are just based off of understanding moving forward and off of some field testing that's also being done in regards to a fire safe distance. We're also looking to provide consistency throughout the township. Certain parts of this bylaw did not speak previously to seasonal trailers or campgrounds. So we've added that in. And when looking into these places, we know that there's been kind of an established unwritten regulation for seasonal trailer parks and campgrounds of being able to have a bonfire pit on their respective properties 10 feet away from their trailers. So a question that was posed to us recently was from a resident of the township who has a very nice home that he's paid a lot of money for, but he also has a trailer. And he questioned the fact that if he goes to the trailer park, he can have a fire so close, but at his home, he had to be so far away. And what was the rationale behind that? So that was what was presented to our fire department, and something that I presented as well to fire officials throughout the municipality. And that's where we were able to establish this 1-to-10 ratio, which we speak about within the bylaw. Now, when you think about that, a 1-to-10 ratio has a 1-foot fire in all directions, which is a relatively small fire. The majority of people will usually have a 2-foot fire. So if they're going to have a 2-foot fire, they have to have 20 feet of clearance. We put in a 1-to-10 ratio, that number, just so that we can be consistent with what's already being established at trailer parks and campgrounds. They've been allowed to have fires 10 feet away, but there was no size limit to govern that. So now moving forward, we're still allowing residents in these places to have fires, because that's why they come here, is to enjoy that. But rather that we can make sure that it's at a safe distance, so they can have a fire that's still pleasing to the eyes and nice to the surroundings, but within a fire safe ratio distance that we're comfortable with for fire life safety.
Okay. Anita, then Donna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, so I like your report. I think it sort of spells things out. Now, there's people in Lakefield, a lot of them don't understand the theory behind not being allowed to have backyard fire pits or whatever. So I think this kind of clears things up a little bit for them. So I have two questions. One has to do with the Lakefield campground. Are fire pits allowed at the Lakefield campground, even though Lakefield is in a built-up area? So is there like a differentiation between a campground within a built-up area versus like houses that are obviously in Lakefield in the built-up area? And then my second question is, can you describe what is a certified gas-fueled outdoor appliance? I have an idea. I'm thinking probably those propane things like they have at, I think Shimong Lodge has them on their patio. So two questions. One's about Lakefield campground, built-up area, and fire pits, and gas-fueled outdoor appliance.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you very much, Councillor, for your questions. The first question is a good one. I appreciate that one. Built-up areas as defined are governed under the township and under you as councillors. Within the FPPA, we can define certain areas as being permissible and those that are prohibited. So we've allowed campgrounds. That's been something that's been standing before my time here. That Lakefield campground was approved to have open air burning at that location. But the village of Lakefield itself falls under the built-up areas as defined. The second question, certified gas fuel appliances, is any approved appliance that's used by approved by Technical Safety Authority, their standards, or other approving agency that's certified by the instruction manual. So you can go and get one of these gas appliances now. You can buy them, like you said, at Home Depot has them, Canadian Tire, places like that. And we've seen them, as you said, at certain restaurants have had them out there on their outdoor patios. A lot of new construction now is also implementing these. Because under the FPPA, these certified gas fuel appliances doesn't fall under that. For people in the city, this is an option that they have available to them because they're allowed to have a barbecue that is connected to propane or natural gas. They are also allowed to have one of these certified gas fuel appliances if it's attached to their home, or if it's able to have a turn off switch or nozzle. So that's what a certified gas fuel appliance is.
Thank you, Andrew. Donna.
Yes, thank you. Through you to Andrew. Thank you so much for all your hard work. It's very obvious that you have put a lot of time into this. I just wanted to say that at the first of this council term, council members were given a portfolio. And part of my portfolio is fire. And this is probably partially my fault as well, that I didn't reach out to you and Gord and keep abreast of the things that you were working on, because I see on the work plan that the open air fire bylaw was in Q1. But in all my other parts of my portfolios, I was kept informed by the department manager of things that were coming to council. And I would have hoped that I would have known about this and had an opportunity to see this before it came to council. And then I wouldn't have had the questions that I had tonight, because I probably could have had them answered beforehand. So like, I'm not blaming you or Gord. I'm blaming myself as much that we should have had more communication, and it may not have been clear because this is just a new thing that councillors have portfolios, and I've never had anything in fire to report on. So that should have clued me in that I should have made the call. So I do have some questions about the content of the bylaw. My first one is, has our insurer provider being asked if they're satisfied with the distance separation ratio of 1 to 10 feet. Because this is a significant change from the 100-foot separation required in the previous bylaw. So could we do just one question at a time, Andrew? Because I have 3.
Yeah, that's fine, Donna. Andrew, you want to go ahead?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. So the answer to that question in short is no. It is something that has been recently put out to find out about, but we haven't got a response yet in regards to that. With that being said, however, as mentioned in the outset, this ratio has already been established in the area. So whether that was something that was approved previously, I will have to wait to hear from him at that point.
Okay, so we'll wait for that answer. And staff, will it be you and Gord that will make the contacts and get the answer? Or will?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, once I get that information of how to contact him, I would be reaching out. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And I'd also like to see some examples of other burn bylaws passed in rural urban municipalities. I know when I was talking to you yesterday, you indicated that I'm not sure if all, but many of the municipalities in Peterborough County did not have official burn bylaws, but I'm sure we could get our hands on some from rural urban municipalities to have a look at. Think that's possible?
Yes, absolutely. That's the city of Peterborough has absolutely no burning in that municipality in the city of Peterborough, but there are areas around here certainly that do. City of Kawartha Lakes has an air burning bylaw. Durrow-Dummer Township has one as well.
Durrow-Dummer would be a good one for us to see and compare.
Right, yeah. We have done some comparisons with these ones, as well as other ones within the county, the city of Cobourg, city of Port Hope, Trent Lakes, to look at theirs, but absolutely we can get those passed along to you.
Okay, thank you. And my third question is, why are trailer parks being given 1 year to comply? Will this bylaw have negative impacts on their operations? It seems to me, because of the time given, that it may have negative impacts on the way they operate now with their open air burning. And if it does, I'm not sure that a one size fits all approach will work for both homes and trailer parks.
Okay, and thank you again for that question. So the reason why trailer parks are given a little bit more time is because they will open up on May 1st, and we don't want to be enforcing this for them immediately when they go in. Certain trailer parks have had bonfire pits that are much larger than a 1 foot in all direction size. So we're giving them a year to get into compliance. And we've done that just so that there isn't a lot of blowback, because if we do it too soon for them, then those who are coming there to rent, those who have had trailers there and they're showing up with their trailers, to enforce something like that might just be a little bit too stringent right off the hop. So we've given them a year.
I appreciate that. So it could be considered a negative impact on their operations. They just have to make smaller fires or else get together at one site where they could make a larger fire. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So certain trailer parks will have the bring, others won't. And last fall, I had the opportunity before they closed up to go and speak to a number of the owners or managers of these trailer parks. in regards of what we were thinking of doing moving forward. And the feedback was all positive. They were excited about the idea of having some regulations in regards to this. And they were more than happy to provide, if they didn't have enough space, to provide a community area where the campers could have a fire.
That seems positive, thank you. But because of some of these three questions that are outstanding, I would like to ask support from my council members that we defer this decision for no more than 1 month, because we don't want to interfere with when the season for campfires start, to get the answers to these questions before we commit ourselves to the bylaw.
Is there a seconder to that? Anita? Any further discussion? All in favor? Oh, sorry, Jerry, did you? Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, I just had a quick question for Andrew here before we vote on this. It's got nothing to do with the Donna's motion to defer. So Andrew, just a quick question, dollars and cents wise, how much is the fine if I'm burning in my backyard? In the built up area, downtown Bridge North.
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. So what we've imposed is a warning first. So if we get a call, so we don't police it. And just to be clear on that matter, this bylaw is law, right, within the municipality. And many people, and I'm sure you've seen it, roll the dice with having fires in built up areas. If we get a call for a complaint there, they will get a warning. The fire will be put out, and there's no cost to the resident. If we show up there a second time, or they've been told they're not allowed to burn and still moved ahead with the burn, then the costs that come with that penalty is the MTO rate of $488 per truck per hour that shows up at the call.
So basically 190 bucks.
No, correction, $488.
488. Okay, sorry, I glitched there. 488. So 500 bucks gets you done. All right, perfect. Thank you. That's it.
Mr. Chair, sorry, it's Angie. I just wanted to comment as well that if we have to reattend several times for somebody who's violating the bylaw, we'd also use those inspection fees that we implemented for the short-term rentals. So that's another punitive measure to really get people to comply.
Thanks, Angie. Sherry?
Yes, thank you, through you. So is all of what, Andrew, what you just said, part of the bylaw? Excuse me.
Regarding the penalties.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you refer to section 8 of the bylaw, it speaks to the penalties and costs, which are written in there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to defer for no more than 1 month, so that would be the 2 meetings. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to item H, which is the Smith landfill site tipping fees. And Janice, I think you're handling this one.
Yes, thank you. As council members will recall, last year with the funding through the Municipal Modernization Fund, we did have a review of the Smith waste disposal site service undertaken by Cambium. This report is stemming from some of the recommendations that Cambium brought forward with regard to our tipping fees at the landfill site. So there's 4 different areas that Cambium spoke to, and then there's 1 additional area that staff has identified an item as well for consideration. So maybe we'll just go through them one at a time if that works for council and kind of work our way through. So the first area that Cambium made a recommendation was with regard to our general tipping fee. And Cambium recommended an increase in the general tipping fee to achieve a number of outcomes to better account for the cost at the landfill site, new costs that we would be incurring from some recommendations made around service options. Some examples are credit card charges, internet services, that sort of thing, as well as starting to account for some of the longer term costs related to asset management, closure costs, and post-closure costs. The other area they referred to was aligning better with tipping fees in adjacent landfill sites. Where our fees are much lower than what those fees are, we can run into issues with people trying to utilize the Smith landfill site to dispose of garbage that isn't created within the township, which is in contravention of our ECA, and which also does use up the life of the site that our residents, for the most part, have paid for. And also to encourage, along the same vein, to encourage people to use the Bensford landfill site and the Waste Connections of Canada site that accepts construction debris. Again, maximizing the life of our site and minimizing our costs. When we take construction debris, we do charge the tipping fee, but then we do have to pay to have it taken to Waste Connections where it's recycled. So those were the recommendations from KBM. And just by way of a little bit of background, so the tipping fees at the Bensford landfill site were increased as of January 1st from $95 a ton to $125 a ton. At the Waste Connections facility, they also increased their fees as of January 1st to $115 per ton. And staff have noticed some increased traffic with regard to those large loads since that. And we certainly do try and make sure that we're enforcing that only waste generated within the township is disposed of at the site by asking for an address. But that does become difficult. And when our fees are so much lower, then it almost encourages people to try and utilize our site because of that. Typically, what we've tried to do is be slightly above the tipping fee at Bensford. So previously, where theirs was $95 a ton, ours was $100 a ton. So that to get to that and to get above the $125 a ton though in one shot would for sure be an awful large increase all at once. So I'm not sure that that's something that would be palatable to council. Just provided a few recommendations for your consideration, and of the options provided in the report, staff would recommend option 3. Which is consistent with the KBM recommendation in terms of bringing our tipping fees more into line with Bensford. So that would see the fee increase be phased in over 2 years. So that would bring our fee to $115 in 2021, recommending June 1st of 2021, and then the other $15 in June 1st of 2022. What that would do is get us up equal. We'd still be below Bensford significantly, but we would be the same as Waste Connections fee. So that would help to encourage people to use that site. And it's, just even being that much closer to the Bensford site might help to avoid encouraging people to try and use our site as opposed to that one. So I'll just stop there. Maybe if as I mentioned, maybe we could deal with each area as we go.
Okay, any comments or questions on that one? Donna?
Yes, through you to Janice. I agree with that rationale, but I was just wondering for this whole report, if when we do our council communicator, if the rationale for changing these fees could be written up in an article for people, because
yeah, for sure.
that would be really helpful.
Thanks, Donna. Anita?
Just want to say I do totally agree with option 3 as a recommendation. I think that makes most sense.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so off to the second one, which is a minimum fee.
Yes, thank you. So this is another recommendation, obviously, that KBM put forward, and they're suggesting that we would implement a change in our minimum fee for both the general tipping fee and also our minimum fee. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong one. So I'll go back so you can follow the report. So on minimum fees, KVM is recommending that we do increase our minimum fee, which is currently $3.50 to $5. And the reasons for that in their report are because the 50 kilograms aligns with the actual fee based on our current tipping fee of $100 per ton. Again, it aligns more closely with our neighboring landfill sites. City of Kawartha Lakes is $5 and Bensford is now $12, but that is for a 100 kilogram load. And also that it encouraged residents to use the curbside collection and limit unrequired trips to the landfill site. So again, there's a few options recommended there. Certainly the increasing to $5 a ton effective June 1st, 2021, and then $6 per ton effective June 1st, 2022. And that is trying to reflect that our general tipping fee is going up over that time period. And it recognizes that not every minimum load actually gets up to the maximum of 50 kilograms. The other option would be to increase the minimum fee to the actual maximum weight in comparison to what the actual tipping fee would be. So that would be a higher fee. That would be $5.75 as of June 1st, 2021, and $6.50 as of June 1st, 2022. The staff recommendation there would be that we go with option 2, which is the $5 beginning in 2021, and then to partly account for the increase in tipping fee in 2022, the minimum fee would go up to $6.
Okay, so on minimum fees, Jerry?
Thank you. Through you to Janice. I believe we've been at 350 for a couple of years now, maybe 3, possibly 4.
Yeah, we've been at 350 for quite a while. Yeah.
Yes. So what I would recommend and what I would like to see myself is if go to $5, fine, I can deal with that. But you get into $5.75 or $6, now you got to flipping through for change and stuff like that. It's hectic in there on a good weekend. So people typically got a $5 kicking around in their console, or 2 loonies and a toonie, away you go. It's been 350. We can keep it at $5, and then the next raise maybe in 3 or 4 years, maybe up to 10 or something. But there's lots of people who go in there and they just got like one bag because they missed garbage day. It's a Saturday. They whistle in there, they throw it in. It's $5. They go out the door, let alone rooting around. So I just like to keep it on an even number. Maybe I'm just an even number guy. I like to keep it simple, I guess. So I'd rather 86 the $6 and just keep it at 5 for a predetermined couple years.
Okay, other comments?
Another option?
Oh, Janet?
No, I just said for sure that's another option to consider. And yeah, I get your point about convenience.
Anita?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with what Jerry said. And another possible outcome, if we're increasing the minimum, rather than people just bringing their one bag of garbage that 5 or 6 times, that they may be inclined to sort of stockpile their garbage, and then they're not using so much gas, not so much wear and tear on their vehicle. They're actually being smart about. I know garbage stinks, but I think it would also be good for the environment to people. The minimum loads rather than one bag at a time.
Yeah, and for sure that was part of KVM's rationale as well, encouraging not only the use of the curbside collection, but also discouraging frequent trips to the landfill. With that though, if people are collecting, 2 or 3 bags, they might wind up over that 50 kilogram weight. So they might wind up paying by weight as opposed to paying the minimum fee. It really depends on the weight of the garbage that they're bringing in. A lot of people actually are using debit or credit even for the small amounts. So the issue of change and that sort of thing might not be as big of an issue as what it used to be, going back to Jerry's point, but for sure we can consider.
Okay, Jerry, did you have another comment?
Please, thank you. I'd like to just make the motion that it's $5 for 3 years as a minimum.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is come back and I'll include that because we have to vote on all of them. So far I've got us going with option 2 on the general, which is 115 and then to 130 in the second year. In the minimum, the suggestion is that we go to a flat 5 and keep it that way. And so then, so that's what we've got so far, but I'm going to go through all of them and then I'll come back and recap. So the next item was the mixed garbage, right?
Yes, thank you. I'll go in the right order this time. So yeah, this was another recommendation and I think it's a good one. And this is seen in many other landfill sites around the area. So the goals for making this change would be to encourage users to sort the materials into correct disposal locations as opposed to dumping mixed garbage recycling metal at the tip face. And it would also help us when we're trying to implement our clear bag program, which actually starts to be enforced in September of this year. The recommendation is that the mixed load fee would be double whatever our general tipping fee is. Again, that is similar to how many other municipalities manage it. We really don't think, based on staff experience, that we'd have a lot of opportunities where we would use it for just general garbage at the tip face. People are generally pretty good at the site to sort their materials as they're advised to. It would, though, be helpful for the occasional person who is a repeat offender and just wants to go and dump everything at the tip face. Then we would have that to use to try and discourage that in the future. I think it would be really helpful for the implementation of our clear bag program, though. It will really provide that incentive for people to start using the clear bags, so they are paying the general tipping fee as opposed to that mixed bag fee, which would be double. So again, there's a few recommendations there for you to consider, and our recommendation would be that we go with the Cambium recommendation, which was that the mixed load fee would be double the applicable general tipping fee and the applicable minimum fee.
Okay, comments on that one, colleagues? I don't see anything, so I think generally council would go along with that. Okay, then we're on to the Freon issue.
No, we have one more.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So the other recommendation that Cambium brought forward was to consider increasing our fees for leaf and yard waste for those loads that are greater than 100 kilograms. The recommendation from Cambium was to go to $100 per ton for those loads that weigh over 100 kilograms, and this would be $5 per ton greater than what Bensford would be charging. The rationale for this recommendation was to encourage the use of the Bensford landfill site for disposal of leaf and yard waste, especially those that are in larger quantities. And because when the material is deposited at Bensford, it does actually get moved along to a proper compost facility to be properly managed. Our staff noted that we don't have a whole lot of your typical residential household customer that have those loads that are over 100 kilograms. So a lot of those loads go in free. We also would note that during the time of the curbside collection program that the county runs, all the leaf and yard is accepted at the landfill site for free of charge for those periods as well. We do get compensation for some of that from the county of Peterborough, and whatever that's a limited dollar value each year, and we just support the cost of anything that's over and above that. So again, in this case, we're recommending that we would proceed with the recommendation put forward by Cambium. Again, that would encourage people to use Bensford for those larger loads, have that material be dealt with properly as compost at the end of the day. We do currently use that material as cover material in the landfill. That material isn't ideal. It can't be used at all times, but we are really just using it that way in order to get rid of the material. So it's really not the best use of that material. So that again would support the increase to try and move those larger loads along to Bedford.
Okay, I have two comments, one from Anita and then one from Jerry. So Anita, so okay, Jerry?
Through you to Janice, what's our current rate right now per ton?
Sorry, $45 a ton.
So we're gonna double that.
Yes, it's significant. So I guess the other consideration there could be another, if council wished to increase the fee, we could go to a phase-in program for that as well.
Okay, so I'm a working stiff. So on the weekend, I come out, I put my leaves in my trailer. They compress over top of the week. And then I come in and pick up a couple more days of leaves. So it takes me 6 trailer loads a year to get rid of my leaves. It compresses in there. So you just keep throwing it in and throwing it in, throwing it in. Next thing you know, you're going to the landfill. You're throwing your leaves in there, and the guy says it's $50. Now all of a sudden it's going to be $100. I don't like the fact that we're going almost double with no notice whatsoever, to be honest with you. I don't know what my colleagues think.
So Jerry, you would be looking at saying go from 50 to 75 this year and 100 following year?
Throw me a bone here or something. I don't think we can, we're talking about jacking stuff up. We don't want the trailer parks. We don't want to give them a surprise. I don't think it's fair to give everybody a surprise come the fall here either, or even throughout the season for that matter. I mean, everybody and their brother's taking their grass and all the crap from the gardens there right now.
Okay. So what happens if we're less than a ton right now?
If you're less than 100 kilograms, it's free. Yeah, and so that guy who's saving his leaves in the trailer, Jerry, I would recommend that he save it until the curbside collection program, and then he can take it in free anyway. But I see your point, and for sure that idea of a phase-in of this type of an increase, I think is a great idea.
So colleagues, would you be comfortable with 75 and then to 100 in the second year, Donna?
I agree with that.
Okay. Okay, so that would, okay, so it's neither of those two options. It's 75 in the first year and 100. But if for your first 100 kilograms, and help me, that means if you have 220 pounds, you don't pay, right?
That's right.
Okay, Jerry?
Through you, but I think that's got to be promoted in fairness to the residents as well, because that's a huge hit. I know I'm going to hear about it. I know this is coming.
So to Donna's point about writing up, we should also emphasize the fact that you get your first 220 pounds or 100 kilograms for free. And so in essence, you could make 3 trips at 100 kilograms and not pay anything, rather than come with 1 trip of 300 kilograms, which would get you the $75 fee, because it'd be less than a ton, and $100 in the second year. Am I getting this right?
Yeah, that's true. I don't think we really want to encourage people to make 3 trips instead of 1, though. That's kind of, defeating the.
No, I'm not suggesting encouraging it. People will arrive at their own conclusion.
They will for sure. Yeah.
Anita?
Grabbed the wrong mouse. So didn't we used to have it that if it was up to 100 kilograms, that portion was free, and then anything like 101 kilograms to say 200 kilograms was the actual amount that they would pay for? But didn't we have that in the past, that the first 100 kilograms was free? So if the load went across the weigh scales and it came to 150 kilograms, they actually only paid on the 50 kilograms? Is that how it used to be?
That's how it is now.
Okay, so if someone comes in with 300 kilograms, they're paying for the 100 kilograms, right?
If they come in with 300, they're going to pay for 200. They're going to pay for everything over 100.
Right. right. So
Yeah.
they're gonna, the first 100 is free. And so they'd be paying, so 100 kilograms, is that a ton? Like 100 kilograms, is that like you're saying $100 per ton or per ton, right? So how does that, how does the math on that work? Ton versus kilograms?
Well, a 1,000 kilograms would be a ton.
Okay, 1,000 kilograms. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So I guess in terms of the idea of a phase in, there's nothing to say that it has to be a 2-year phase in either. It could be a longer phase in if that helps to address your concerns, Jerry, around, the level of increase over a shorter period of time.
But just to clarify this, when you come in with a load, the first 100 kilograms is free. So
Yes.
if you come in with 125 kilograms, you're only going to pay on 25 kilograms.
That's right.
Okay, so we have to make that clear to people. And then the phase in for the increased fee would come in either over 2 years or 3 years. I think there might be a desire to do it over 3 years. Does that make sense, colleagues? So your first 100K are free, and then the rate increase, which will eventually get to 100 per ton, will happen over 3 years. Jerry, that work?
Yeah, I like the 3-year idea. The other part too of it, or sorry, 3-year to or council, I guess, is you get a rough idea of what your stuff weighs. If you're taking leaves or if you got a load of lumber on there going to the dump, you got a ballpark idea, and then you go in there and the fees have doubled. That's when our phones are going to start ringing. So if councils would do 3 years, I think that would be the smart move to do. And I think it's the fair thing to do, to be perfectly honest with you. And I never thought we'd talk so much about garbage during my term of council here in my life.
There you go. Okay, so I'm going to read all this back to you when we're finished. So this one is the first 100K is free, and then we will move for any amount over that from up to $100 a ton over a 3-year phase-in period. And then Freon.
Yes, so this isn't something that was identified by Cambium, but as we were going through this process, we did recognize that the charge that's in place, and it's actually cost recovery. When an appliance comes in that isn't tagged as having its Freon removed, we do have to pay to have that Freon removed. That charge to us has increased from $12.50 to $15. So we would suggest that we increase the fee so that we can recover the full of that cost. And I think the recommendation is actually that the way we would word that fee is that it's an actual cost recovery. That way we can just keep up with the cost recovery without having to come back to council for an amendment to the bylaw.
Colleagues, everybody comfortable with just charging what the actual cost is? Oh, yeah, okay, so let me read back to you what I think the motion would look like. So in terms of the general, we would go to 115 this year and then up to 130 in the next year. In terms of the minimum, we would go to a flat $5. In terms of the mixed, it would be double. In terms of yard waste, the first 100K are free, and then we would move it up to $100 a ton over a 3-year period. So 1/3 each year. And for the Freon, we would charge the actual cost of getting it done. So does somebody, I think that's what we agreed to. If somebody wants to move that, Jerry, and seconded by Donna. Jerry, do you have a comment too?
Yes, yes, through you. I'd like to see at least 3 years on that $5 minimum. I don't think you mentioned that. If you did, I missed it.
Okay.
At a minimum.
Mean to take 3 years to go from 350. Oh, I get it. That we go to 5 and we keep it at 5 for the next 3 years. Okay, good. We'll add that. Good. Okay, so that's moved by by Jerry, and seconded by Anita with that slight change. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, good work, and thanks for all that.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Anita.
I know this is beyond this report, but I know I'm beating a dead horse, but I keep on coming up with this idea of a reuse center like North Kawartha at their Anstruther site. They have I think they're called sea cans or sea bins or whatever, and people can drop stuff off that's too good to go into landfill. I know I've talked about it in the past, and I know there is, issues with liability and sanitation and probably some staffing, but it's still something that I've often gone into the Anstruther site reuse center. It was closed last year because of COVID, probably be closed this year as well. But a lot of stuff that was still useful, people could drop stuff off. They could, take it away for free. Now I know we can donate to the secondhand shops and stuff, but a lot of people just find it easier if they're going to the dump. They bring their regular dump stuff, and then they also have these items that are really too good to be going into landfill. Again, I keep bringing it up, and I know I'm beating a dead horse, but I just want to beat another dead horse.
Okay. Janice, do you want to comment on that, or I see Rick's on the line too?
Sure. I was actually just going to say that perhaps what we could do, I think people do have a lot of other avenues for passing along that type of material so that somebody else can either just receive it, or it can go to a secondhand store for sale. Maybe to try and encourage that what might be helpful, Anita, is in the article that we're going to do for the council communicator that's kind of talking about waste and going over the increases in fees and the rationale and why. Maybe we could include something in there that would kind of provide some of those outlets for people's information and encourage that type of material does get diverted from the landfill site through donations to these different organizations.
I see a thumbs up to that. Okay. Colleagues, we're now going to go to the consent items. And just before we do, I'm going to ask, with colleagues' permission, that item 6A, which is correspondence for with a recommendation, be deferred to the last item that we deal with under consent, because I am going to turn the chair over to the deputy mayor for that one item so that I can discuss that. And what I intend to do is add an additional clause to the motion for my colleagues to consider. Now, the last time I turned the chair over to the deputy mayor, I did it very incorrectly, so I'm going to try to get her done right this time. And so if we do all the other consent first, then I'm going to turn it over for 6A to the deputy mayor. We'll deal with that, and then we'll move on to portfolio reports. And I will close my window so you don't have to listen to my dog during this meeting. Okay. So just hold on just a second, folks. Okay, I think we won't hear that any longer. Okay, now, so colleagues, what items would you like pulled? So first, Donna, go ahead.
Yes, 5F under municipal staff and officers reports, and number 16 under correspondence.
So correspondence number 16, okay. Anybody else have anything that they want to pull? Not seeing any. The only other one that I would like to pull, there was one other, if I can figure it out. It's 5G that I would like to discuss. We have any other takers? Not seeing any. We'll go first to Donna and 5F.
Thank you. I don't think Scott is here, so I guess this would be Tulane, the streetlight project. And we were only showing one bid submission. And I was just wondering if we did receive only one bid for this project. Because usually we see several, so I would assume we only receive one bid.
To you, Mr. Mayor, no, we actually received 6 different RFP submissions of varying types. Some included painting, some did not include painting, some were compliant, some were not. So this, the recommended bid that came forward was the low bid that was compliant for street light installation only. And there was a wide range of pricing, and there was also a wide range of compliance.
Okay, so are you saying then, said something about painting?
The RFP included installation and painting, and you could bid on both, or you could bid on only one component of that.
So is this bid just for the installation?
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll have to get someone else to do the painting.
Yep, that's hopefully that's clear in the report on the last paragraph on page 1.
Okay, I must have missed that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That takes care of 5F. So on 5G, just a quick question, and it's on the item regarding the make sure I got the right thing, on the stop for the new transit in Lakefield. It would appear to be right in front of the funeral home, and I'm wondering if we're going to end up with a conflict during a funeral.
Through you, we have let the funeral home know that we will create a no parking zone Monday to Friday in that location. We need to make sure that we have an accessible spot in the downtown for the bus to pull over. So they are aware of that. The bylaw would be structured so that parking could take place on the weekends as well. So yeah, so there could potentially be a conflict during a funeral of a few parking spaces where folks may have parked in that location for a funeral. But there is lots of parking further down the street, and a lot of people, of course, park along Water Street for a funeral too.
Okay. And so the owner is aware of our plans, and you've let them know. So okay.
They are aware.
Okay. Then we have in correspondence back to Donna, item number 16.
Yes, I could have included this in my portfolio submission, but it is regarding the new makeup for police services boards, and submissions are due by June the 7th, 2021. And if a submission is not made as to the preferred makeup, then the decision will be made for you. The idea is hope that there would be one board per detachment. So that would mean that there's one board for Peterborough County, Curve Lake, and Hiawatha. And if you want more than one board, you have to submit your rationale for that, and it has to be approved. So they really do want just one board. And the board has to have a minimum of 5 members, and 20% of that, and there's no cap on the maximum, 20% representation from the community, as well as 20% from provincial appointees. And Janice was the lucky one to get the job to coordinate all this in all her communications with other CAOs, and we will probably have other police services board meetings to give some input as well, but it's a very short time frame. And thank you so much, Janice, for offering. I know it's another job that you have to do, but appreciate it, and I know it'll be done well when you're doing it.
Okay. Thank you, Donna. And that completes the items other than 6A. So what I'm going to do is ask for a motion to do all the consent items with the exception of 6A. Somebody willing to move that? That's Anita. And somebody willing to second that? Donna, all those in favor? Okay. Will vacate the chair and provide it to Sherry for item 6A. You're muted, Sherry.
That helps, thank you. All right, item 6A, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I understand the position that the chamber is taking to try to create a more what I would describe as a more equitable protocol and a way of treating small businesses, and I think that makes good sense. But I did want to add a second clause to ensure that whatever they eventually come up with, that it's consistent with public health guidelines. And so what I'd like to suggest is a second that, so the first that would stay there. And the second that would be that this protocol be consistent with public health and provincial guidelines in respect of physical distancing, wearing a mask, and any other relevant safety precautions. That's what I'd like to propose, and I'm willing to move that, by the way.
All right, thank you. Is there a seconder? Anita? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? All those in favor? All right, that's carried. And I'll turn the chair back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. And so we will now move on to, there are no petitions, so we'll move on to council portfolios, and we'll start with Councillor Ballantyne.
Thank you. I gave the latest update on what's happening with the Police Services Board in the correspondence, so I'll leave that for now. Library Board, we keep flipping between being open limited hours and going back to curbside pickup as the provincial orders change. Through the pandemic, we've been working hard on new policies, as well as updating older ones. Some examples of new ones is a board customer code of board and a customer code of conduct, scent-free policy, and working alone policy, to name a few. We've also created a fundraising committee to try and make up for some lost revenues. The fundraising committee has not met yet, but it proposes to meet sometime in early May. And as we discussed, the link will be starting in early May. And we had a photo op on March the 31st with all the key players, and we had a short bus ride. I think I mentioned this tonight too. Yes, I did, in the work plans. And that was handled very well by Anna. And our last rec meeting was canceled because little business to discuss, and Jerry might have some more to add to that.
Thank you, Donna. Next is Sherry for Economic Development, Business Retention and Attraction.
Thank you very much. Crinkle Auto Body is located on Robinson Road beside Jesse's. It's a new owner, and he plans on making a lot of improvements to the property. Over $65,000 has been spoken for in March for CIP, and some of the projects are Cassis Bistro is putting in a dining deck and an automatic door. Overstock is putting in an air purification system, and Lakefield Bakery is installing a takeout window. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sherry. Then we'll move on to Public Works and Recreation. Jerry.
Roads continue to be swept. They're working in Bridge North right now, finishing up some of the paved roads, and then going throughout the township as needed and on schedule. Schedules available on the township website. The Trail Committee, Michael has a report coming to the April 27th meeting. The Ennismore Garden Club's added again with a secret garden being proposed at the Ennismore Waterfront Park, and it looks kind of neat. So Michael will have a full report there. That's about it from us.
Thank you very much, Jerry. And we'll go to Anita for sustainability, culture, and senior services.
Just basically going through the recommendations that were endorsed in the consent items, including the official designation of 44 Bridge Street, the endorsement of our accessibility advisory committee recommendation with regards to urging the federal government to fully restore funding for accessible reading materials. Thank you for that. And then also with regards to our heritage committee, thank you for endorsing the recommendation from the committee with regards to putting a call out for additional members for the heritage committee if anybody is interested. The 44 Bridge Street issue obviously stirred up a lot of pride in the heritage and historical aspects of the village. So maybe we will actually get some more people applying to be members. So staff have to do the necessary legwork. So it's going to be interesting to see if people actually do step up following the whole 44 Bridge Street thing.
Thank you, Anita. And I'll do my report. Just a few things. First of all, you've probably already all seen this, but Eorn announced the Cell-Gap project. It's a $300 million project. Rogers is the commercial partner. Both the provincial and federal governments are making significant contributions, and there's also a municipal contribution coming from the upper tiers. We had a report at county regarding the causeway. So the in-water work has now been completed. In 2021, the project will include the resurfacing of Yankee Line. The roadway on the causeway itself will be done in 2022. In the meantime, though, the county will be watching closely, and if it's necessary, to do repairs, temporary repairs in advance of that. There's also work that will need to be done on the bridge section of the causeway, and I've talked to Janice, and she may want to add to this. We, as a township, are working hand in hand with the county so that the portion of the work that we will have to do in terms of lighting and sidewalk will be coordinated with the county work that will get done in 2022. I think I have that right, Janice?
Yeah, you do. So the county has put together a technical advisory committee, and we will have both Rick and Angela sitting on that committee to help with the design of those components.
Thank you. On housing, the deputy mayor referenced this in our presentation on the community safety plans. So we've had a in-depth discussion through joint services and then at our own county council on housing and how we move forward to make sure that that the issue of affordable housing is going to get dealt with in the county. The police services board was also mentioned, and I just want to say I'm very appreciative that both Councillor Ballantyne and the deputy mayor are doing work on this, and I very much appreciate the ability to have that being done by both of them. In terms of ORCA, as we saw in one of our reports, ORCA is also affected by MZOs, and that when an MZO was issued, ORCA is required to issue a Section 28 a permit regardless of any circumstances or finding of harm. I also should mention I attended the Conservation Ontario annual general meeting yesterday, and I was selected chair of Conservation Ontario. Just to speak on public health, I'm sure all of you are well aware we are going through a very challenging time in the province, but that we have not been spared that now, this time locally. So as of today, we have 120 active cases. We went from yesterday having 373, which was an all-time high, if I understand, of close contacts to monitor, to today going up to 440 close contacts to monitor. So you can, and they are usually a harbinger of potential cases. Sadly, on Sunday, Peterborough Public Health recorded its 1,000th case cumulatively in Peterborough Public Health. And today, 2 days later, it's now 1029. So this month alone, in April, we've recorded 154 cases. So if you think about it, almost 15% of the total cases we've experienced as an area have occurred in the last 13 days. So stretching all the way back. So the variants of concern are pushing through our community. They're present and it is having an impact. We continue to have an aggressive vaccine rollout. It's taking place both through the clinics that are operating at the Everwood Center. This week there's one in the county operating at Buckhorn. We started off with 3 pharmacies, and they're adding an additional pharmacy this week. So we now have 4 pharmacies. The numbers in the province, now this number is a little bit behind because of reporting, was up to around 3.3 million vaccines administered across the province. They're administering roughly somewhere between 95 and 105,000 a day is what they've been able to get it up to recently. So all I can say to folks is to please, with the stay-at-home order, please adhere to that. Just go out and do essential business. That might be your job. It could be, well, schools are closed now. But if you're shopping for groceries, if you need to go to a medical appointment, if you need to go to the pharmacy, that's fine. But this variant is circulating in our community. The only way it moves is from human contact from one person to the next. It doesn't hop a lift in a car, doesn't transmit by itself. It needs somebody to help it get from one person to another. So to the best of everybody's ability, please let's adhere to the stay-at-home order and the provisions that are in that order, as well as in the emergency brake order that came out just before that. So that, colleagues, is my report. Donna, you have your hand up?
Yes, I just had a question to you. I saw on a US news channel that they were suspending the use temporarily of the Johnson & Johnson. And I wondered, is that the AstraZeneca one?
No, that's a different one. That is approved in Canada for use, but we have not received any shipments on that. So that's not part of our current rollout. The big difference with that one is it's a single vaccine. You only need one shot, but we haven't started to use it yet.
They're talking about blood clots with that one too, so that's why they've stopped administering it for the time being.
Right, and it'll be Health Canada and who will be monitoring that. And so I suspect that they'll make some sort of statement at some point in time. I don't know that. That's outside of Peterborough Public's health realm. That's done at a national level.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, not seeing any other questions. I think we may have lost Jerry. Am I?
Yeah, you're correct. He was unfortunately lost internet connection. He's hoping to come back.
Okay, well, we'll move on. We still have quorum. So is there any other new or unfinished business that anybody wants to bring up?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just two things. We're past our curfew, so if we could just have a resolution to move past curfew.
Okay, Donna and Nita, all those in favor? Carrie, okay. And I think, Sherry, you had something that you wanted to raise?
Angie said there were two things.
There is. Just wanted to schedule that special meeting, but if the deputy mayor would like to go first, we can do that one when she's finished.
Okay, it was hearsay. I haven't actually seen it myself, but apparently on Saturday at Burley Falls, the place was packed. So we might end up having a repeat of what went on last year.
Yeah, thanks for noting that.
Mr. Mayor, it's Lane here. Just before we go to the additional comment that Angie had, I do have that data that you're asking about in terms of lost revenues.
Okay, good.
So if I just do a direct actual to budget comparison for recreation and the two arenas, our lost revenues are in excess of $267,000. This is for 2020. In 2020, close to that $67,000 figure was in recreation, which is a direct tax supported department. And so that was funded from the Safe Restart grant. So that was offset. So that left about $200,000 of lost revenue for the arenas. But we did have some savings at the arenas as well. And so our deficits there won't be as large as that. And those deficits, as council will recall, are typically offset through the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. And so we'll be clearing those up as part of our year-end entries. But those are that's the magnitude of the revenues when we have to close those facilities for sure. So that was an excellent question, and it definitely sheds light on what we're looking at as long as we have to keep those facilities closed.
Well, thank you very much, Lane, for getting that information that quickly. Really appreciate it. And it is a big number. It really is. Okay, thank you. Angie, you wanted to try to schedule that meeting, right?
That's correct. And so I sent out an email at the very end of the day. So I did hear back from everybody. Unfortunately, Donna probably didn't get a chance to take a look at it. So hoping to schedule a special meeting on May the 5th. This would be to discuss the preliminary findings of the campground utilization study. Mayor Mitchell is not available until 4 o'clock that day and does have another commitment at 6. So it sounds like he's sandwiching this meeting in. So I'm not sure if that's a big issue for the mayor to make that work. I know Jerry's not on the call, but he did indicate that that date would work. So I think we would need probably like 2 hours would cover it if that works for council members.
Yeah, I'm fine so long as we stay in that 4 to 6 window. So everybody else okay, Donna? Yeah. Donna, that's okay. And Anita, that's an okay. Sherry, are you okay? Sherry's okay too. Okay. I need a motion to schedule a special meeting of council. Anita's moving and Donna's seconding. All those in favor? Okay, so we have a special meeting May 5th, 4 o'clock to deal with the initial findings on the campground. Okay, now we will move on to the bylaws, and we need to pull the bylaw
34.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
on the next page. Okay. Yeah, bylaw 34, the opening, but all the rest of them I think are good, right?
That's correct.
So
Yep.
we'll do a motion for everyone other than 2021-34. Can I have a motion from Melita, from Donna seconded? All those in favor? Okay, and now I need a motion for a confirming bylaw. Sherry, seconded by Donna. All those in favor? And this is going to have to be different. Who wants to move adjournment? Okay, Anita's going to move adjournment, seconded by Sherry. All those in favor? Okay, colleagues, we are adjourned. I want to thank staff. This was we had a lot on the agenda, so there's a lot of work put forth to get everything ready for us. So thank you very, very much. We saw how quickly people are responsive, and that a question asked at the beginning of the meeting is answered by the end of the meeting. So thank you, Elaine. But also all of my colleagues, counselors, for all of their hard work this evening. So have a good night. Stay safe. Be well. Bye-bye.